Hi everyone. The other day I watched a video from one of my favorite traveling nomads. And it was a two-part video, sort of. The first part told us, there was this one particular man at their free campground who was, a nice enough guy. If you needed something, he was there. One of those give you the shirt off his back kind of fellas. But in the evenings, he would drink a little too much and he became annoying. And nobody really wanted to report him because they realized he didn't mean any harm. Then the next day he came back and told us that this gentleman had been asked to leave the campground. And he told them it was the discrimination and he didn't know why he had been asked to leave. So of course he was concerned, and so was everyone else. Then a young woman who was also a solo camper there, and she kind of kept to herself. She was polite, but she didn't really bother anybody. And everybody had their own space, even though they could see each other. Well, it seems that while he was annoying to them in the evenings, what he did to her was tantamount to sexual harassment. And what she did was she reported him to the Rangers, and then she left for the night because she didn't want to be there with him, and she didn't want to be there when the Rangers showed up. So after the Rangers asked him to leave the next day, she came back and she explained to everyone what happened. As a single solo female camper, this is something I want to talk about. I absolutely want to talk about this. So yeah, let's do that.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Okay, let's talk about camping safely. I started camping 6 years ago, and I have always camped solo, only because nobody else wanted to go with me, and it was something I really wanted to do. The first year I went to a female-owned campground because I thought they would be a little sympathetic to the cause that I wanted to camp, but I wasn't sure what I was doing, and maybe they would be helpful. Picture my first setup, and they absolutely were helpful, and I felt safe. Yes, there were people around, but I felt safe, and Sheila was camping. Year 2 and 3, I went big time glamper, and I went to another campground that I felt safe at, again privately owned, that would allow me to leave my setup up for the entire summer, from May to end of September, and I paid for it. And they kept an eye on all my stuff while I was there, and I just always felt safe. And then year 4 and 5, I did tiny glamping. I went back to the female-owned campground because I just loved the fact that they have so much water and they have all these little cubbies you can choose from to give you the illusion you're camping by yourself, even though less than 20 yards away there are other people. But again, I felt safe, and I was able to get what I needed as far as my camping experience. And then last year, I went glam packer, part glamping, part backpacker, and I started camping on the Appalachian Trail. Again, I was very lucky to find a place where I could give myself the illusion of being out there, but less than 100 yards away was the trail center. So I've always picked places that made me feel like I was camping, because in all honesty, if I went to the kind of places where I really, really was, I would be putting myself at risk. So for me, the safety measure is choose a place that you feel safe, you feel comfortable, and no, you may not be camping on top of a mountain, and you may miss some of those gorgeous views, but nothing beats knowing you're safe. So yeah, pick safe places. Where I live in Virginia, there's national parks, there are forests, national forests. I have never camped at any of those places because I felt like they're designed to give you the illusion of camping, so that you're 400 or 500 yards away from your nearest neighbor, and there are always trees in between you, so you can really get that illusion. Well, that's really nice if you're not there by yourself. If you're there by yourself, well, can you really navigate those trees in the middle of the night if something happens? If you scream, will someone hear you? Because the forest rangers only come through once or twice a day. There are 24 hours in a day. That's just not enough coverage for me to feel like I'm really protected. And as far as the free places like the national forest, I would not go there and camp. It's just too much going on in national forests now. Now, I think that that lady who camped with the Nomadic YouTube channel I watched, I think she picked a good place. But out of the 6 or 7 nomadic campers there, there was one bad apple. And of course, the ranger didn't come until the next day after she made her complaint. That is not a quick enough response time as far as I am concerned. I like personally owned properties because the owners live right there. Okay, they live right there on the property. If there's a problem, they're going to hear me scream. If there's a problem, all I got to do is call them and they're right there. I like that. So sometimes as a female camper or nomad, you might have to give up some things that are your God-given right to be in a beautiful place, to see the mountains, to see the beauty of this world in exchange for a little bit of safety. Number 2, interaction with fellow campers and possibly other nomads. Now, I believe that the woman that we talked about previously, I believe that she handled herself well. She was friendly. She wasn't, well, she was polite, but she wasn't overly friendly. But sometimes you just can't help how other people view you. You can't help that. I remember when I was camping a few years ago, a friend of mine's who never really agreed with my starting to camp had called me one weekend and asked me to go to lunch. And I said, well, honey, I'm camping. What are we driving? Because this is a friend who had toys, you know, Corvette, Harley, Mercedes. And I'm like, well, if it's anything other than Harley, I don't have the clothes for it. So I said, what are you driving? He goes, I think I'm taking a Corvette. And I said, well, honey, I'm camping. I don't really have any clothes for that. I don't have any heels or anything. He goes, what do you mean you don't have any heels? Because, well, you know, I like to wear heels in my personal life. I said, honey, I'm camping. There's no reason for me to bring heels. And he goes, well, didn't it occur to you I might call? Well, no, because I'm camping, and you knew I was camping. But the point is, in his mind, 1, I probably shouldn't have been camping, and 2, he just assumed I would do it the way I do my normal life. My normal life, I wear heels. Camping, I wear boots. When I ride the Harley, I wear boots. So my feeling was, if you want to take me to lunch, you better bring the Harley, because that's the only thing I have clothing for. And this is the reason why I'm very careful with my interactions when I'm camping. You know, I downplay clothing. You know, I'm not running around in booty shorts and tank tops with, you know, all my boobs hanging out. I'm pretty conservative, pair of, you know, stretch pants and a t-shirt. Because, you know, when you're a solo camper, sometimes people just get the wrong idea. And so I try not to give anyone the wrong idea by the way I'm dressed. I'm never overly friendly. I will if you speak to me, I will speak back, and I leave it there. I don't accept invitations to go to another site, you know, because people are partying. I don't accept invitations to come on over and have a drink with us. I say no. I just don't want things to get out of hand, and I just am very careful about having, you know, something misconstrued. So I'm not very friendly when I camp, nor am I that friendly when I nomadic travel. Even though I stay at hostels, because I like the group atmosphere, I don't really participate. I just like knowing it's there, because to me that's a measure of safety, a measure of familiarity that you don't get in a sterile hotel environment. Um, with a hostel, there are just so many people you have to interact with, um, that I feel like, God forbid something happened, I would be remembered. You understand? But it doesn't necessarily mean I want to join a group or sightsee with anybody or have drinks with anybody. I just want to be in a place where I'll be remembered in case, God forbid, something happened. And for me, hostels are perfect for that. Um, Everybody doesn't have the introvert personality I have with new people. I'm very introverted with people I don't know. I'm extremely extroverted with people I do know. So depending on whether or not you really know me, you're going to have a different take on who you think I am. And I guess that can be a problem with some people. But I find that, people are who they are and I am who I am. And everybody has a right to be who they are. Like I said, I try never to be rude, but I'm not going to be overly friendly either. So I hope that you got something out of that. I know what I was trying to say, but I hope you understood that. Number 3, gear. I never take gear that I don't know how to work. I don't take gear that I need help with. Because I think that if I have to ask someone for help, then that opens the door for people to be friendlier than I would like them to be. And there are a lot of people who are extremely helpful. If they see you by yourself and you even give the hint that you're struggling, man, they'll make a beeline to you so quick to offer their assistance. And for some people who hope somebody will ask or offer, that's great. But that's not who I am. It drives me crazy when people come over and offer to help me set up camp because it took me longer than it took them. Well, I'm only one person. You're 4. It's going to take you a shorter amount of time. The amount of time it takes me is normal, and I'm okay with it. It's expected. I'm good. And I just don't want to be beholden to someone who was being helpful, and then they think that we're friends, because that's not, the case. So I make sure the only gear I take is gear that is tried, true, tested, and I know what I'm doing. So I can get camp set up as quickly as possible, considering it's only one person doing it. I always make friends with the owners of the campground. As a matter of fact, when I check out a campground, the first thing I do is talk to the owners, let them know who I am, let them know I'll be there, keep an eye on me. And I find that works really, really well. Whereas if you camp at various places or state parks or the national forest or things like that, you really don't get to see anybody. Maybe a ranger once a day, and that would not make me feel secure. So I hope that, I told you how I choose sites that make me feel safe. I told you how I interact with other people while I'm out there by myself. And, to make sure I have gear, I absolutely know what I'm doing. I hope that these things would be helpful to the novice female attempting to camp by herself. I watch Wanderlust and I am in awe. This woman is friggin' fantastic, and I would never have the nerve to do what she does. But we're different people, just like there are people who think that I do a lot. Compared to Wanderlust, I'm a sissy, you know. But if you're somebody, a female who wants to go camping, it's doable. Just choose your situations, your gear, and your locations, and how you interact with people very carefully. Do it based on how you feel comfortable. While I may not feel comfortable being a social butterfly, maybe that's a comfort space for you. So for you, that would probably work. So just do whatever makes you feel comfortable, and don't let anybody talk you out of it. Just do you, and you should probably be okay. Like I said, I've only had 2 instances where something went wrong, and both times I stepped out of my character. And I shouldn't have. And yeah, it was okay in the end, but they're both situations that didn't have to come up had I stuck to my basic way of how I do things. So you just come up with what works for you and stick to it. And don't let people tell you, oh, you can do this and you can do that. I think the worst thing in the world anybody can say to another person is, oh, you can do that. Because in a way, it feels like they're being supportive, but also in a way, it's pushing you to a place that you probably not really sure you want to go. Don't let anybody push you in a direction you don't want to go. That's a surefire recipe for disaster. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Every single day